we've peeled those potatoes and we're doing the big ones to start with. And I've got a large pan there and I'm going to add about a tablespoon of salt to it. And then we'll pop that on and bring that to a rolling boil. And meanwhile we'll prep his potatoes, and these ones that I'm doing are going to be for chips. So that's all those done. And I'll just give them a rinse in cold water and get rid of that excess starch. That pan's now come to a rolling boil. So we'll just put all these chips in. And that's going to stop it boiling. So you need to put that lid back on and bring that back to boil. And that's when your blanching starts, and that's the important part. If it takes longer than a minute or so to bring this pan back to boil, you've put too many potatoes in at the same time. Once it does come back to a boil, if you're doing baby potatoes or chips, you need to blanch them for 3 to 5 minutes. Because if you do them for too long, once you defrost them to use, they're going to end up being a bit mushy. And if you're doing larger potatoes, like roast potatoes, they need 7 to 10 minutes. So we'll give these 3 to 5 minutes once they've come back to boil, and then we'll move on to the next ones. That took just over a minute to come back to boil, so now we count 3 to 5 minutes, depending on the thickness that you cut those. If these was the really thin French fries, 3 minutes would be plenty. They've now been going for around 4 minutes, so now we need to drain them, give them a quick rinse under cold water and pop them into an ice bath. Straight into that water. We've put plenty of ice in there because we need to stop this cooking process as soon as possible. Otherwise they'll get cooked through too much and they'll start falling apart. Now leave those to completely cool down. And then we can move on to roast potatoes. And I'll just cut these into 4. And now we'll rinse them as well to get rid of starch. This first batch has now completely cooled down, and you can see they're not falling apart, but they are soft on the outside. That's exactly how you want them. I'm just going to spread these out on a clean tea towel and then pat them dry. We don't want them going into the freezer completely wet through. And then we can pop them on this tray for freezing. And when you're doing chips, you want to be freezing them single. You don't want them all stuck together in big clumps when you defrost them. So we're going to open freeze them in rows like that. Now just pop them straight in your freezer. So now we've brought the pan of water up to a rolling boil, and we'll get those roast potatoes in. Pop that lid on and wait for it to come back to boil. And because these potatoes are slightly thicker, they need 7 to 10 minutes. These have been boiling for about 7 minutes. So we'll drain them, rinse them under cold water and pop them straight into another ice bath. And now we let those completely cool down. And again, they've got a little bit of softness on the outside, but they're not completely breaking up. Then again, on that clean tea towel, and dry them off. And then we'll pop them on a tray. So once again, we can freeze them individual. Then you can take out what you want as you want it. Pop them straight in your freezer. And I'm doing just one more today, and that's pre-flavoured spicy wedges. So skin on potatoes, give them a wash, chop them into nice chunky pieces, however thick you want, even that thick. And again, in that bowl, rinse them under cold water and get rid of that starch. So we've got another pan up to a rolling boil, and we'll get those skin on wedges in. And again, we'll bring it back to boil, but this time, even though these are thick wedges, we're only going to blanch those for 3 minutes because we don't want that skin coming off. 3 minutes later, drain them, run them under cold water and then pop them in an ice bath to completely cool down. So we've dried those off just like we did the previous batches, and now we're going to add some flavour. So a teaspoon of garlic, or add more if you prefer. A little bit of chilli. We don't want to go too mad with that. Maybe half a teaspoon, unless you like things really hot. And then a teaspoon of paprika. And all we need to do now is coat these chips. And because we haven't cooked these for too long, we can toss them around without them breaking up. And now everything's evenly coated in all that amazing flavour. And I'm just going to wipe over this tray with a bit of lard. And then when we put this paper on, it's going to stick properly and not keep rolling up on us. We'll get his wedges on, and again we'll space those out, and then once again we can take out as many as we need because they won't be stuck together. And now we'll pop those in freezer too. So these have all been frozen now, and you can see they're all individual, so we'll get them bagged. So if you just wanted enough for a chip butty, you've now got that option because none of these are stuck together. I'm just going to flat them out a little bit, and then we can fasten them up because we've pushed most of the air out. Or you could just pop a straw in and vacuum seal it by sucking all air out of this bag. Like that. Now they can go back in freezer. And now those roast potatoes are frozen, and again, all separate. The best thing about making these roast potato size ones is when you defrost them, you can also use those to make mashed potatoes. So we'll pop that straw in here again and get that air out. There's your bag of ready-made roast potatoes back in freezer. And last but certainly not least, those amazing flavoured spicy wedges. Once again, all individual. These are really good to make in advance around Christmas time. So we'll fasten those up, and again they can go back in freezer until you're ready.